Having been a member of several bands over the years, Jesse wanted to create a passion project with his wife Tessa. In the independent release, I Think You and Maybe Me, the songs were written to explore new ways of making noise and facilitating unique manners of imagining possible futures. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take you on a journey of understanding our connection to music, the challenges people face in the music industry, and learning how to enjoy life.
I'm Jesse. I'm from Wishkaah, which is a project with my wife and myself. We're in Halifax right now. We were in Montreal for about 15 years. That's where I first started doing Wishkaah. And I've been in a number of bands in my time. I'm old. And yeah, so we've just finished, not a record, but a 4-song piece that we're putting out. Will be the first time that I've worked with her. And I think it's a start of something new, and we're excited to have the opportunity to talk about it with you. So thank you for having me.
Just listening to the song, it's really fun, and you can really feel the passion in there. So you're originally from Montreal.
I'm from Ontario. My wife is from Nova Scotia, rural, but we lived in Montreal for about 15 years, and we moved out here about 2.5, 3 years ago, roughly in that area.
Yeah, really nice.
I got to know a lot of people from Winnipeg in Montreal. And yeah, there's a huge kind of expat scene there, and I heard endlessly about all the awesome no age shows, and you guys had a really vibrant, awesome, or maybe you probably still do, music scene. It was nothing like what I grew up in.
It's definitely really fun, going to the different bars and pubs and listening to local musicians play. It's really fun, and you never know what you're gonna find. I mean, because COVID and everything was very quiet for a long time. Yeah. But it's coming back with a bang.
Yeah, I get the feeling, at least the impression from the people I know, that it's a pretty supportive place to be a young musician. And unlike, where I grew up in Ontario, especially in Toronto at the time, wasn't lovely. And Montreal is a very awesome and creative place, but there seems a sense of community coming out of Winnipeg. And I get the feeling from Saskatoon as well, where it's just like a vibrant place to, cut your teeth.
I think it's those medium-sized cities where the community really connects and is able to support the arts in a fun and unique way. Was it Wishkaah? It's a very unique name. How'd you come up with it?
Wishkaah is a river in Washington State. It's about 60 kilometers long, and it's the river where the fabled bridge where Kurt Cobain lived under for the song Something in the Way. And their live album released after his passing, From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkaah. So when I was starting this project, I was just kind of winding down the band I'd been in Montreal called Citizenship, and I put a lot of effort into that band, and it came very close to breaking and doing quite well, and it just didn't. It had hit hard. So I put 6-7 years, and this thing seemed for a moment like it was really gonna go somewhere, and then kind of in the aftermath, I was left a little older, questioning, well, what am I doing? Am I still doing this? I had children on the way. What am I up to? And I decided I was going to keep going and keep doing it. So I was thinking of a name for this new project, and I wanted it to reflect purely personally kind of my, why I wanted to keep doing it. And I was just kind of tapping back into Nirvana was the first band that I liked for myself and obsessed with and listened to all the rarities endlessly on tapes and basements. And I didn't want to have a name that was too specifically referential, but I always, From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkaah was my favorite live album, and I liked the name. And so I thought, I'll just do that, throw in another A, so it's a little easier to reference Google-wise. And that's basically where I got the name from.
It's never a bad idea to, when you're building a project or building an idea, to take things that you're already passionate about to implement it into there.
I'd never done that before. I'd never been someone who had a lot of foresight. And so I decided for this one, I'll be a little more purposeful and a little less kind of seat of your pants on what exactly it is.
What is your relationship with music, and how has it inspired, I think, you and maybe me?
I like that question. For myself, but this would be true for everyone. The visceral connection we feel to the various musics that we like comes from, I think, it is a form of communication that interprets the world through an emotive lens. Actually, it's been interesting. I've read a couple papers recently by some prominent linguists who are more and more advocating that music came first before language. Music is a little primordial, where we're the only creature that has like grammatical language, structured, reasoned language, but a ton of animals have communication, complex communication, whales and birds being most obvious, and that ours would have been very similar and comes from an older time. And so the reason we connect to it is because it does express, or it allows us to express, an understanding and interpretation of the world that is more fluid than our kind of structured, reasonable, grammatical language. And so I was thinking of those ideas as I was doing this record and what it exactly was I wanted to express and use music for. And I do pop music, and I'm not a particularly good player or, advanced musician in any sense. And I was struggling with the value of pop music right now. Is there a point considering everything? And what I kind of landed on for myself to justify it was that I think that pop music, although under capitalist system is incredibly commercial, at its essence and heart, it is still just a communal understanding and expression of the world as the people on the ground at that time see it. And you can take that back to the midst of history in every single culture. We sing and we dance to try to understand the world we live in. And with that, I felt a little more comfortable doing these songs. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do? Climatic collapse, rise of authoritarianism, a left that can't reach it, the late stage capitalism, early stage techno-feudalism. There's a lot going on. I didn't want to be too overtly political because I find that gets pretentious. So I thought, how can you use the sonic sounds lyrically in a pop format, but using pop in the sense of like a group communal, like let's talk about what's happening, but in a way that's not preachy, that's just express what the hell is going on. And so those were kind of the thoughts and the relationship to music as a tool to express that sort of emotional understanding of a very complicated world we're living in right now. And that's what I was kind of aiming for with these 4 songs. At least I attempted to take a stab at it.
Well, yeah. I think that's just the amazing part of music, that you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the Mozart of the generation. You don't have to have the most complicated lyrics or notes in the song. If you're coming from the heart or the soul, a song can have major impact, even if it's not quote unquote the best. A YouTuber I follow recently just released a song that he's been working on, and you can really feel about the pain and anxiety that he's feeling right now in the world. And it's, you really feel that connection to it.
I think that's important. And I think we're going to steer more and more, the way I see it, the format that we've been working under in pop music, we have these big superstars and you have everything is kind of like hierarchically the best and everything down, is going to start dissipating, and it'll become local. Won't be kind of a euphemism for less successful. If that, it'll just be, we are going to go back to, I hope, or I would want to sharing music outside of just thinking about how you can profit from it, because it's the most important, one of the ways that we communicate so well and love, and it all matters. And there's a place for high art, classical music, jazz. These things are kind of like societal expressions, I think, of, and those do take like masters. Mm-hmm. But on the day-to-day level, it is just as important, if not more, for all of us to be able to have those communications about what are maybe not the most nuanced understanding, but are still real understanding of what's happening. And I think that what you're saying is true. That's how music plays a part. And where the internet has done a lot of negative, I think the positive is that we can connect. And if you remove the idea of needing to be financially successful from it, then it's a wonderful way that you can hear people all over the world doing small things, and it doesn't matter the trajectory of their career. It just matters like if they're interpreting something that means something to a lot of people, and that's, I think, the point of it.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be a significant change in the system overall. If you want to be incredibly successful, the amount of like exploitation you have to put yourself
It's
through. Like when we're looking
unreal.
at K-pop artists out in South Korea, like it is just a brutal fight all the time to stay on the tops there. I mean, a lot of these people are very, very successful, but just what they have to go through. And it would be nice to see a shift. I was speaking with an artist for another interview, Noreen Braun. She released an album called A Song for Trees. Her
Yeah.
goal was to create an album where you sit down and just listen through the whole thing. Something that we don't really do anymore in the
No.
age of TikTok and social media, where it's just
Yeah.
bites of a song or one song that you play over and over and over again. It is nice to just sit down and go through this experience to hear the story of what the artist wants to share with you.
What she said is correct, and I think it's one of those small rebellions we can do. It's like what we're left with. I think with the way our society has been structured is these little revolutionary acts, and to sit and take that time to be with something is not what we're supposed to do. As our lives are cut down to the second now, every interaction. So to create a piece and expect someone to, it's not an expect, it's giving them the gift to take a time, take 20 minutes, 30 minutes and just sit with something. We don't do that anymore, but that's what we want to do. I mean, I find it interesting that if you read a lot of kind of the base anthropological look at humans and kind of early return hunter-gatherer societies, one of the things people find they do most is nothing. And not nothing in like a lazy way, just be, just exist. And I think that's inherent to who we are as people. And we've just ripped that ability away to just sit and have a second.
Yeah, the grind mindset can be very detrimental to someone's mental and physical health.
Yeah, you're done work and then you go home and you're grinding on your social media, your brand, you're building your brand, you're making sure that you're improving yourself. You're endlessly doing something, because if you're not doing something, you're doing nothing. Doing nothing is a negative thing. But I think that's the great thing.
Well, it's great because then you can reflect not only on yourself, but the world around you. When you're there with people, you can just connect. Like, there's nothing more fulfilling to me than sitting down and watching a movie with friends. Not necessarily paying attention to it, but just have it in the background while, just being there with each other. And yeah, in this modern era, it can be really hard just to unwind because you'll be like, well, did I rest today? No, I was too anxious about not being productive that I wasn't able to rest.
Endlessly productive, but you can't even take the time. And then it's harder to connect because you're not even sure what you think or feel because you haven't had the time to actually examine what you think or feel. So of course everything gets down to like, well, I guess I believe this soundbite or this. Polarization kind of spreads from that inability to have the time to think and be nuanced in how you actually do feel about things.
When you're writing these songs, what did you learn from them? And how will you approach your music moving forward?
I think what I learned, and a very late lesson for me, was to just finally turn off the little voice that says, how will someone else appreciate this? And just actually do what I found interesting and what I thought was good. When you make a decision, should I do this thing here or this or not? Before it'd be like, well, I kind of want to do this, but how will this be perceived? I just was able to completely silence that voice, and that made it a really positive experience. And I think that I've learned how to work that muscle in the future. So I'm going to bring that forward. And I also learned a lot of it was a learning process on how to use the equipment in a way that I hadn't used it before. And that opened up a number of possibilities for future kind of presentation of songs.
So this is also a very connected project. You recorded with your wife. A
Yeah.
friend co-produced it. Why was it important for you to create this as an independent release?
I would say that it was less a choice and more just, I didn't question it. I wanted my wife to sing because I really wanted her to sing on it. My wife's not a musician and has never had any aspirations or relationship. She's an avid music listener, and I think she has a lovely voice. But I basically just said, "You're singing on this, and I'm going to make you sit down and practice these songs with me." And I think she really liked it, I think. And then for our friend Jace, I just have worked with him before, and I trust him. And I wasn't interested in chasing labels. I'm not interested in that anymore, nor would they be interested in me, like a 40-year-old guy in Halifax. I've been pretty lucky to do well on the publishing and licensing side of things. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't even be a lot, I feel, at this point a label could do for me, because you're either touring or you're getting publishing money, and that's basically it to finance yourself. And I got 2 young kids, and I've done a ton of touring, and I would love to tour a bit more, but I'm not going to go slog it out for years for someone else. I might kill myself anymore. Mm-hmm. So I have the publishing, so I'm able to put out records in a way that, you know, it's small and it's simple, but it makes me happy, and I like what I'm doing, and there's a freedom to that.
Well, yeah, it's something that you and those close around you own, that it's something you can be proud of and have ownership. Yeah. That's something a lot of people don't have anymore, an ownership over the things that they create.
No, it's true. And a number of friends of mine are in much more financially successful touring bands, and it's killing them. It kills them. And I watched it, and I wanted it so badly when I was younger, and I got a taste of it, never to the extent of like a big indie label or like a major label, but I did my fair share of like slogging it out on the road for years. And I'm not sure it's worth it. I'm not sure anymore that it's worth it artistically or personally, the sacrifices that need to be made. At the end of the day, it's like you had said earlier, it's a pretty dark industry, as most of the arts industries are. And there's a lot of people who profit off of it that don't have to make those sacrifices that the musicians do. And I don't think that I think music shouldn't be something that you have to sacrifice friends and family and love and health for. I think it should be something that should be embracing those, as opposed to just being, like a cog sent on the road and run down to your nub and then thrown away when you can't do it anymore. It's interesting. I was just reading this morning that they're talking about the drummer from Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, who passed away. And I guess Chad Smith, the drummer from Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Matt Cameron, who I think was the drummer for Pearl Jam back in the day, both said that the Taylor Hawkins had to express that he just couldn't do it. He didn't want to do it anymore. And he talked to their management and he said, "It's killing me." And then it literally killed him. So that's on the extreme level, but it's not a healthy lifestyle what musicians have to do. And it's fun when you're 20, but it's even 24-year-olds start being like, "I'm tired, man. No, I want to have a partner. I want to
Yeah, it's a very similar ecosystem within the like YouTube or Twitch streaming area, where agents, at least from the one YouTuber that I was listening to about his experiences, he wanted to go independent, not be connected to a label or an agent, anything like that. Because sometimes it feels that you're paying them and for things that you could do yourself, or they're just making money. I mean, it's very different for like Hollywood actors and agents and things like that. But for just YouTube, at least his experience, it felt that agents weren't adding anything to his life, just giving him a headache.
I would imagine it. It's interesting. I don't know that world well, and I'm interested in that world because it's so prevalent and it's the dominant form. But it's funny how the same characteristics just transfer over. It doesn't matter the medium. You're still going to get the same kind of hierarchical relationships between those who are going to own what you do and control what you do, but sell it to you like they're helping you a career. But really, at the end of the day, they're just making money. That's what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And they feel they'll manipulate you and they'll go to someone else if you're not willing to play. And so I imagine that's tricky.
We're definitely on a precipice in terms of just late stage capitalism and
Yeah.
exploitation and just how our systems worldwide are working
Yeah.
right now, where people are like, this can't be what existence is, right? This
Yeah.
can't
This
be
can't be.
all that is meant for like us as humans evolving over millions of years to get to this point. This isn't what life was
No, I
meant
don't think
to,
so.
right?
I don't think so at all. Just to have a bunch of stuff that you don't know why you have, and to have no time, and to have community connections, spiritual connections, familiar connections, all broken down in the name of having a strong economy that doesn't even reflect back to the majority of the people living there. So
Mhm.
what, you're just like, if I don't have time, I don't have a great like community, I don't have my church I go to, I don't have my community center, I don't know my neighbors. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm paying off debt, making people money off interest, and I'm just stressed all the time. And I
Yeah.
watch a lot of Netflix. Like, is this really we're a being that exists to? We can interpret the universe. We can see it
Yep.
and breathe and smell it, and that's what we're doing with it. Seems pretty ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole philosophical debate that we could have about, the point of existence. And I'm not saying that human advancement and human technology is a bad thing. Like,
No, of course not.
one of the beautiful things is seeing what humanity can accomplish when it's not just, monetary gain or uh, consumerism or capitalism just to get as much money as possible. Seeing the arts created, of course, you need a lot of resources to make it. But when we're looking at like the Sistine Chapel, what humans can accomplish is incredibly amazing. But we need to, focus on the benefits of humankind as an all.
I mean, it's. I think the turn of the century anarchist Peter Kropotkin used to make the argument that this technology is wonderful. It's going to set us free to do all these wonderfully communal things. We're going to have no scarcity, and they're going to have time, and then we're going to bake and garden and make music and make these wonderfully advanced technological cities that are full of like just really possible ideas, and we've just thrown it out. And they also make the point that if you look backwards, kind of what you're saying with the architecture of the Middle Ages, a lot of those city-states began as communal projects. So a lot of that art was done communally. A lot of that building was done communally. And that's something that's very interesting. And it's not presented that way, but that's the truth of the matter. These city-states were people working together because they had the time and the desire together to create. And that's what we do well.
Mm-hmm.
If we have time and if we have community.
Yeah, like I love watching Star Trek, and I've watched a couple of debates online of people just talking about, what if we eventually reach that point where we can have fabricators that can change molecules into anything that we need? And of course, his mentality went, well, in a capitalist society, it's one of those things that it would be scarce because, they want to keep it and then spend it out, even though it would solve all of Earth's problems, and we wouldn't have to worry about money or things. We could solve climate change, access to hunger, clean drinking water. It would all be available. But, when you're trying to make money off of it, something that could change the world is just held in the hands of a few.
Yeah, exactly. So it's we're going to have to make some foundational changes at the bottom before we can, because we're already living in like a post-scarcity society, but nobody has enough drinking water or food. So that's a problem because we have it. We can feed everyone.
Yeah, we have the technology to change the world. It's just we don't have those with the resources to do so don't have the want or desire to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Coming back to music, what advice would you give to individuals looking to explore their passions and thoughts through music?
I would just say, corny as it sounds, just do it. Just play what you have, play music, have a cheap keyboard or guitar if you can get your hands on it. If you're at school, maybe go use the music room and just do it, and do it in a way that it's just a joyful, fun thing to do, to try to get rid ourselves of the notion of doing it purely for some sort of like feedback of success or, people are going to love me, all those sorts of things. While those are human characteristics, we should just do it because you love doing it. And if you love doing it and you have fun doing it, your life will be better. And then if something comes of it, that's great. But even if nothing comes of it, well, your life will be improved markedly because you get to participate in a very human thing.
Where can people go to find out more about yourself and your new release, I Think You and Maybe Me?
We have a Bandcamp, wishkaah.bandcamp.com. I'm not a big user of social media. I'm on Twitter at Jesse_LeGallais at twitter.com. I lurk mostly, and I'm not on Facebook or Instagram. I'm a bit wary of the social media, but you can definitely find it on the streaming, Apple Music and all that sort of stuff, and on Bandcamp.
Awesome. I mean, you're doing the right thing staying away from social media.
Yeah, I'm trying to save my sanity a little bit.
Enjoying the content from You Multicultural? Subscribe so you can stay up to date with everything that we're doing. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.